What's going on, guys? It's Greg here, aka NYPrepper. It is Thursday, May 14th, 2026, and I have some breaking news to share with you guys. Right now it is 16:36 Eastern Time here in the United States, and I wanted to update you guys on the situation with China and Iran and Europe. But before I get into that, I wanted to mention some very sad news. So one of our main moderators and one of my close personal friends, John Hoover, has passed away unexpectedly. From what he told me, he was fighting brain cancer, and it was at stage 4. I got to know John very well in the beginning days of the Ukraine war. He used to FaceTime me from Ukraine. He was a volunteer in eastern Ukraine. He would drive all the way to the front lines to provide equipment to the Ukrainian soldiers, and he also dedicated a lot of his free time to train Ukrainian soldiers in emergency medicine. So he would FaceTime me all the time from Ukraine at all hours of the night, and we would have many deep discussions. So this is very difficult news for me to share with you guys. He does have an obituary page. I'm going to leave a link in the comments down below and in the description where you can actually leave comments on this page here. You can see people have already left a whole bunch of comments. So please go to the obituary page and leave a bunch of comments. And they will be live streaming his funeral next Friday the 22nd on Facebook. So I'm going to see if I can put that on my live stream. So we have a U.S. nuke sniffer up in the air right now over the Great Lakes. This is a very unusual pattern for a nuke sniffer. These planes can monitor radiation in the atmosphere. It took off from Stratcom headquarters in Omaha, Nebraska, Offutt Air Base, and it flew to Detroit. And then after looping over Detroit, it was flying really low along the coastline of Michigan, along the Lake Michigan coastline here, the western side of Michigan, and it was flying really low. This is very, very strange behavior. Not sure what they were looking for over here, but wanted to share that with you. I wanted to just summarize some of the main points from Trump's trip to China so far. So the spokesperson for China's Ministry of Foreign Affairs said that Taiwan was the top priority for Xi Jinping in talks with Trump. And Xi Jinping made some very strong statements today to Trump about Taiwan. So let me read to you what he said. He said, China-U.S. ties can be dangerous if Taiwan is not handled well. He also said if the Taiwan issue is not handled well, the two countries could come into conflict. He said if the Taiwan issue is handled properly, the relations between China and the U.S. can maintain their overall stability. He also said Taiwan independence and peace across the Taiwan Strait cannot coexist. Wow. So very strong statements from Xi Jinping, and I had a feeling that this is one of the things that China was going to talk about with Trump. And so I think Trump is going to try to cut a deal with Xi Jinping related to Taiwan and Iran. And it's going to go something like this. Trump is going to basically tell Xi, we're going to back away from Taiwan if you allow us to bomb Iran and clear the Strait of Hormuz and wipe out the regime in Iran. You have to promise us that you're not going to invade Taiwan, but we're not going to support Taiwan militarily, and we may even withdraw some of our forces from the region. I think there's going to be some kind of a deal like that, okay? So we're going to have to wait and see. That's just my opinion. And China said that Taiwan conducted live fire drills near the Chinese mainland right before Trump arrived in China yesterday. And Marco Rubio, the U.S. Secretary of State, said that China put billions and billions of dollars into their military. He said he doesn't think it's limited just to the Taiwan issue. He said, I think they have ambitions to ultimately be able to project power globally the way the U.S. does now. They're still behind us in that regard, but nonetheless, they are investing a lot of money. They are right now the world's second most powerful military, without a doubt. Wow. And one thing Rubio didn't mention is that China is going to have almost as many deployed nuclear warheads as we have by 2030. According to CIA estimates, by 2030, China will have 1,000 deployed warheads, maybe even sooner. We have 1,500 deployed warheads, so that is very, very concerning. And Sean Hannity interviewed Trump, and he asked Trump if he discussed China's support for Iran with Xi Jinping, and Trump said he's not going to give military equipment to Iran. That's a big statement, but at the same time, he said they buy a lot of their oil there, and they'd like to keep doing that. So you see, this is exactly what I was telling you guys. China gets a lot of cheap oil from Iran, and they will be very pissed off if we change the regime and then suddenly China's going to have to buy oil from American companies that are exploring for oil, or basically taking over the Iranian oil fields. China's going to have to buy from American companies that took over the Iranian oil fields. And according to an Israeli Channel 12 source, Israel has raised its alert status to its highest level in anticipation of a potential resumption of the war with Iran following Trump's return from China. The Israeli military is reported to be preparing both offensively and defensively for the possibility of immediate renewed hostilities with Iran. Wow. And the U.S. And this update was sponsored by EMP Shield. Guys, EMP Shield has created a special discount just for you, the listeners of the NYPrepper channel. If you go to empshield.com and use the promo code NYPrepper, you can get 15% off your entire order. And why do you need an EMP Shield? Well, this is a special device to protect your vehicle, your RV, your solar generators, your radios from an electromagnetic pulse, which could be caused by a solar flare or potentially a rogue country like North Korea detonating an electromagnetic pulse weapon over the United States that's mounted onto a satellite. So protect your vehicles, protect your RV, protect your radios, protect your generators with an EMP Shield. Use my promo code NYPrepper to get 15% off. Installation is super simple. This is a veteran-owned business, 100% American-made, and the EMP Shields have been tested by the military, okay? And free shipping is included to the entire continental United States. And the link and the promo code are in the description below this video. Energy Secretary Chris Wright said that Iran is frighteningly close to weapons-grade uranium. Iran's existing stockpile of uranium enriched to 60% could be further enriched within weeks to 90%, which is suitable for nuclear weapons. Wow, so that's what Chris Wright said, the U.S. Energy Secretary. Wow. And according to NBC News, the U.S. military is considering renaming its conflict with Iran Operation Sledgehammer should the ceasefire collapse and Trump choose to resume major combat operations, replacing the previous designation Operation Epic Fury. The name change would also allow the administration to effectively restart the 60-day congressional authorization clock under the 1973 War Powers Resolution, as the White House would argue it constitutes a new operation. So, wow, Operation Sledgehammer. Wow, listen to that. And then that's going to restart the 60-day clock, okay? And Chinese companies have discussed secretly selling weapons to Iran through third countries to hide the shipments, according to U.S. intelligence. Officials aren't sure whether any weapons were actually delivered so far that way. And the Israeli Prime Minister's office confirmed that the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, secretly visited the United Arab Emirates in the middle of the Iran war. And according to Reuters, citing people familiar with the matter, during the conflict with Iran, Saudi Arabia also conducted strikes on Iranian-backed militia groups in southern Iraq near the Iraq-Saudi Arabia border. Per the report, some of these strikes took place in close proximity to commencement of the U.S.-Iran ceasefire. Wow. And last night, Russia launched one of its largest strikes on Ukraine. In the past 24 hours, over 1,400 drones and over 50 missiles targeted Ukraine, mostly the capital region. 1,400 drones, guys. Absolutely insane. And what's even more insane is that the Ukrainians are able to shoot down like 90% of those drones. Could you imagine any European country or even here in the U.S. if Mexico sent 1,400 Shahed drones towards Texas and Arizona? You think we'd be able to shoot them down? I don't think so. We don't have the defenses for that. That's a major gap, and the Defense Department is working on that right now. But it's incredible that Ukraine is able to survive these massive onslaughts for so long, for so many years. And the fact that they can shoot down all these drones is remarkable. And right around the time of this massive attack on Ukraine last night, we did have high priority nuclear codes. Skymaster messages were heard. So very interesting. And the U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said Russia is losing 5 times as many soldiers per month as the Ukrainians are. He said the Ukrainian army at the moment is the strongest army in Europe. Wow. And Russia's top commanders have told Putin that the Russian army could seize the entire Donbass region or eastern Ukraine by the fall. So it looks like Russia's going to prepare for another massive invasion. And Slovakia closed their border crossings with Ukraine for some unknown reason last night. And the Polish Air Force scrambled fighter jets yesterday due to a Russian Ilyushin-20 recon plane that flew close to Poland's airspace in the Baltic Sea. And Ukrainian drone operators overwhelmed NATO forces during exercises in Sweden. During drills on the island of Gotland, Ukrainian drone operators acted as a simulated enemy. They carried out a mock attack on the island, which was being defended by NATO forces. Okay, so the Gotland Island is in the middle of the Baltic Sea. It's between the Baltic countries and Sweden. It's a Swedish island. And looks like NATO could not cope with the Ukrainian drone operators. And Hungary has officially summoned the Russian ambassador for the first time after a Russian strike on Zakarpattia in Ukraine. This was stated by the Hungarian Prime Minister Peter Magyar. The Hungarian government strongly condemns Russia's attack on Zakarpattia, he said. Apparently a lot of Hungarians live in Zakarpattia. That's the Ukrainian Carpathians. A lot of Hungarians live there. So Hungary officially summoning the Russian ambassador for the first time since the war started. Massive change in the position of the Hungarian government towards Russia with this new prime minister. And the Pentagon abruptly canceled the deployment of a brigade combat team to Europe, even as some troops and equipment were already en route, in a move marking a further reduction in the U.S. military presence on the continent, the Wall Street Journal reported. So if you don't know what a brigade combat team is, you can think of it as like a mini military all in one. So the brigade combat team has tanks, artillery, light infantry, special forces, regular infantry, airborne forces, drones, they have reconnaissance forces, they have everything. It's like a mini military in one. And they've been sending those to Europe the last 10 years or so. and looks like they're reducing that now. And satellite imagery shows Russia has covered 2 nuclear-armed Bore-class subs at its Kamchatka Pacific base, 7,000 kilometers from Ukraine, in full anti-drone netting. This is at the Rybachi base on the Kamchatka Peninsula. And these are Russia's newest nuclear-armed subs. This is part of their nuclear triad. Okay, it's the first time the entire submarines, not just their piers or sails, have been netted this way. The subs each carry 16 ICBMs with multiple nuclear warheads each. So, wow, that is crazy that Russia is so paranoid about drones that they are now covering their subs all the way in Kamchatka, okay, 3,000 miles away from Ukraine. And Russia is allegedly building a full-fledged partnership with the Taliban. This was reported by the Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Shoigu. And massive protests have erupted in Cuba today. Hundreds of furious residents have taken to the streets of Havana in one of the largest anti-government demonstrations in the capital in decades. The protests broke out after the Cuban government announced it had completely run out of diesel and fuel oil reserves. Crowds are now banging pots and pans, chanting "Turn on the lights," and shouting anti-government slogans. So Cuba is next, okay? They're going to get regime changed soon. But that's the latest breaking news that I have. I might be back later on tonight with a live update. And until then, take care, God bless, and don't forget the 3 Ps. Prepare, practice, and persevere. And before I continue with the breaking news, I wanted to mention the sponsor for this update, which is Matt Hat Jerky. Guys, if you're a beef jerky lover like myself, you got to try Matt Hat Jerky. This is the best beef jerky I've ever had. I personally met the owner of this company at SHOT Show, and he's actually local to Pennsylvania. This company has an interesting story behind it. He founded this company when he was 11 years old. Yeah, that's right, 11 years old. He's now 19, and he makes gourmet beef jerky, the best jerky I've ever had. He's got over a dozen different flavors, and it's all sourced with U.S. beef. So no foreign beef, no nitrates, and no MSG. So it's all natural American beef jerky. And if you use my promo code NYPrepper, you can get 15% off your entire order. And you got to go to matthatjerky.com. And I'm going to leave a link in the description down below. That's matthatjerky.com. One word, matthatjerky.com. Use my promo code NYPrepper to get 15% off your entire order. And the link and the promo code are in the description down below.